Chapter 13 of Facts and Fancies by Orpheus Everts. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Linda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Chapter 13. Stopped again. Sidetracked. Waiting. An express, due here, to pass us. Strange that I should be reminded, in this place and at this moment, by a word that I see yonder, on a badly battered freight car, of a name that oft awakens memories not always painful. Name, in fact, though never mentioned, that is never quite forgotten. Name of one, however distant, dead perhaps in proper person, as a spirit always answers promptly to my spirit calling, comes, as now, and stands before me. Oh, how subtle are the threads of thought that enter every fabric, by imagination woven, yet how perfect many forms are. Memory, though age depletes it, holds in store a world of stuff still, from which fancy ever draws forth endless threads of many colors, weaving, ever weaving, till death hides both loom and weaver. Shadows falling eastward lengthen, eastern skies are tinging purple, shading into greenish opal, western clouds are blushing crimson, conscious of their blooming beauty. Wreck ahead! We'll be delayed here several hours, no telling how long, so the officers report now. Passengers get out and wander up and down the track at leisure. Not yet sundown, still the air grows somewhat cooler, more refreshing. Masher and the widow, strolling, find wild flowers along the wayside. Oh, how lovely, how delightful, how exquisite, and how fragrant, are the widow's exclamations, as he plucks and she receives them, common flowers on which she's trodden all her life in woodland pastures. Some she pins on her full corsage, some she fastens to his lapel, touched by rosy tinted fingers, thus transforming country posies into rare, delightful blossoms. One coquettishly gets tangled in the lace above her bosom, but she kissed it ere it fell there. Was it art, or was it nature? Love's an artist and magician, nature's handiwork transforming, by its touch, the homeliest objects, taking on new forms and colors. How thus beautified and garnished, even Bridget's brow Hibernian wears a diadem all queenly, and her face, although prognathous, rivals Dady's, superb, matchless. Shakespeare said as much. You'll find it in the most delightful drama and imaginative poem, wherein he makes Puck and Oberon play fantastic tricks with lovers. My weak fancies are but fireflies when contrasted with his lightning. On our left, a city graveyard now attracts my observation. Monumental marbles standing, ghost-like white, beneath dark pine trees, all as silent as the sleepers over which they keep long vigil, touched by the departing sunbeams. are both picturesque and gloomy, tinging fancies light with sadness. Will the sleepers whom they watch o'er wake to live, or unwaked slumber? Questions old, yet who can answer? What a mystery is being! Life and death, who knows their secrets? If life ends in death, or death is the beginning of a new life? Savage peoples, animistic, all expect to live forever, passing through death's dark defiles to happier hunting grounds hereafter. Christians, too, the most enlightened, live in hourly expectation, or belie their creed confessions, of a blast from Gabriel's trumpet, at the sound of which the dead shall all arise from Adam down to the last infant born and buried, all arise as if from sleep, and, after judgment, live forever, some in happiness, the faithful, who believe in Christian dogmas, all the rest in awful torment. The fact is, that no one living thinks or can think of not being. Consciousness is never conscious of unconsciousness, and therefore self can never think of self as non existent or as lifeless. Browning might have said that better, if not more obscurely, perhaps. Pagan art, Grecian, Egyptian, here survives in forms memorial, obelisks, Corinthian columns, tablets, slabs, and urns pedestaled, side by side with Christian symbols, crosses, crowns, and forms angelic. Women dressed in wings and nightgowns vainly strive to stay the tide of time and rescue from oblivion. Fameless names, how soon forgotten! Vulgar passions find expression also in this art sepulchral. Vanity and pride pretentious are displayed, as well as sorrow, faith and hope and sweet affection. See you pyramid of grain, see yon pyramid of granite, massive, high, severely polished, cost $100,000. What does it commemorate? Who was he who lies beneath it? Hero, martyr, statesman, poet? No, a man who made a fortune, made it by transactions shady, lived, by all his neighbors hated, died. This monument was builded by executors. He willed it. Such is not the legend sculptured on its base, but this is truthful. Face religious, mythopoeic, concepts ancient, modern dogmas, here likewise are symbolized. See that graceful female figure, winged to represent an angel, sympathizing with the sorrow of a stricken human mother, bringing to her heavenly comfort. See yon winged Apollo blowing, with strained cheeks, celestial trumpet, heralding the resurrection, looked for by all honest Christians, hoped for by the unbelieving. See that dove, the Holy Spirit, resting on an infant's gravestone, and behold the crucifixion, done in marble, full of pathos, or would be, but for some draping, solipsistic, of the figure. Jesus on the cross, sublimest of all symbols, and yet, why so? Other crosses have been borne by other men who've died upon them. Men, not gods, a different story. This the legend of Christ's cross is, not as you, but as I read it. Legend of the Cross. God the great, the sole creator of both heaven and earth, sustainer of the universe and ruler, disappointed by man's conduct from the day of his creation, after waiting many ages, waiting, hoping, and despairing, of himself took counsel, saying, I have tried since I made man to keep him in subordination, humble, worshipful, obedient, walking in my ways appointed. But my efforts have all failed me. Every purpose has been baffled by his machinations, instigated by the evil, that malicious old time traitor, striving ever to dethrone me. Ignorant from the beginning, to keep man I have endeavored. Knowledge discontents the knowing, when still kept in subjuration. But he listened to a woman, who had listened to the evil, and did eat of fruit forbidden, food that all his senses quickened, senses through which knowledge came, and he was ignorant no longer. For this first offense I cursed him, cursed and drove him from my presence, banished him from lovely Eden, fearing, knowing if I did not, he would seek and find another fruit yet growing in my garden, still more potent, which, should he eat, would transform him, make him equal to myself, a god immortal. Long he wandered, many children, many generations followed, born perverse, though loving evil, growing worse as they grew older, and more numerous and more knowing, hating me with silent hatred, worse than noisy accusation, dreaming still of paradise though, longing still for life eternal, finally indignant, angry, hopeless of all further effort, oft repenting having made man, I determined to destroy him and every living thing I for his maintenance created. So I moved the waters under, opened wide the windows over, caused a rain to fall unceasing, 40 days and 40 nights too, till the highest mountain ranges were with water deeply covered, and all life on earth extinguished. All except a saving remnant, saved the earth again to people, spared to spare me all the trouble of renewed creative labor. But one man then was found worthy of the trust I contemplated, perfect in his generation, walking with me. Him I caused to build a boat before the flood came, into which, with all things needful, he and his wife, sons and their wives, and some pairs of every other living thing, beast, bird, and reptile, were secured to serve my purpose. Oh, how desolate the earth looked to me, to even me then, me, who from eternity had calmly contemplated chaos, until moved to try creation, as a grand experimental exercise of power long latent, and I felt a sad new sense of loss and grief and loneliness. Then I waited, watched and waited, for the waters to assuage, for the earth to be repeopled, for the coming generations to refill the vacant places. With that man I covenanted, promised him that I would never flood the earth again in anger, nor do other things I had done on account of the corruption of all flesh as I had found it, blessed him and all his family, bade them multiply profusely, and replenish the waste places, thinking and expecting that he and all of his descendants would be grateful and obedient, walking with me in my ways, and never causing me displeasure. But alas! the ancient leaven, flowing from the heart of Adam, moved their blood, and they too wandered in forbidden paths, becoming self-conceited and ambitious, doing not as I would have them, proud, presumptuous, and ungrateful, finally grown strong and many, thinking me far off, or sleeping, they conceived the bold design of gaining access to high heaven, where my dwelling place hath long been, by constructing a high tower, and thus accomplishing by cunning the great end of aspiration, the one thing so long denied them. When I saw this, saw their purpose, all of one mind, all conspiring, busy planning, busy building, building high the Tower of Babel, after personally inspecting what they'd done and contemplating what they might do if not hindered, having promised not to drown them, I determined to disperse them. So I sent them all a whirling, down the valleys, up the mountains, every one a language speaking, different from every other. Thus I thwarted their bad purpose, thus I spared the realms of heaven from their insolent intrusion, spared myself humiliation. I knew Lucifer was with them, and secured my throne from danger by disorganizing labor. From the man I thus dispersed have many peoples emanated, peoples who all worship gods, but do not worship me, the greatest. But one now of all the number knows my name or calls upon it in an attitude of worship, praying, praising, sacrificing, and though chosen and adopted as my own peculiar people, whom I promise to make countless as the sands upon the seashore, superseding every other, both by increase and by conquest, watching over all their movements, guarding, guiding, and preserving, doing for them many wonders, out of Egypt safely leading them from bondage sore and cruel, making for them a safe passage through the deep sea, and o'erwhelming Pharaoh's proud pursuing army in the wilderness when starving, feeding them with quails and manna in an arid desert also, From a dry rock causing water to gush forth in streams refreshing, fighting many battles for them, with exterminating slaughter, giving them the spoils of nations, lands and flocks and maids and money, giving all that man could wish for, all except the one thing wanted, for which still man longs, aspiring. Still this people, this same people, does not love me, does not trust me. Would they were not so ungrateful, so self-willed, and so self-seeking, so like Adam and his consort, whose creation I regret still, often now in grief exclaiming, Israel, oh my Israel! Would that I had never made man, or that I might still reclaim thee, or that Adam had not eaten, or that apple had not listened to that woman, or that knowing good and evil, good from evil, had not chosen evil always. Only gods can know the feeling, the desire and need of worship. Strange the use man makes of knowledge, strange perversity of reason, striving thereby to discredit all my ways and all my words too, all that I have said or written for their past and future welfare, written by the hand of Moses, spoken by the mouths of prophets, and attested true by wonders that no other God could equal. Strange that men can doubt or question truths so obvious and simple, truths that babes believe undoubting when repeated by their mothers. It must be that I've mistaken man's maturer comprehension. Can it be, I've often wondered, if I did not err in making man too capable of thinking, if I did or did not err in making him too fond of women, if I did not also err in making women too attractive, too persuasive, too convincing, making both too speculative, curious about the future, curious about themselves, and about everything created. I have wondered why I did not make them different altogether. If I might not have prevented Lucifer from gaining access to my garden and protected, in her ignorance and weakness, the poor woman from temptation. Was I thoughtless? Was I careless? I had power to do so, surely. And I've sometimes wondered also if I have not been too hasty in my temper, too exacting in requirements, and too jealous in my intercourse with mortals, too revengeful in my anger, too unmerciful in judgment, notwithstanding all my goodness in my dealings with my people. But regrets are unavailing. Punishment has proved a failure. I've determined now to change my tactics and my manner toward man. I will call him back to Eden. I'll invite him to partake of that same fruit he longed so long for. I will ask him to appease his hunger and become immortal. But to seem myself consistent, still my sovereignty maintaining, I will tell him he must die, But death is only change of garments that will gain for him admission into states of life eternal, that the sins of Adam shall be expiated and forgiven, and my honor vindicated by a sacrifice unequaled, sacrifice that I will offer to myself for man's redemption. This I'll do, and to accomplish the great purpose indicated, justifying self to self, and reconciling man to me, I will perform a miracle that will startle and convince him. I will cause a youthful virgin to the royal house of David, afterward to be related, without sin or carnal knowledge, to conceive and bear a son, who among men shall represent me, and become a mediator, through whom all men may approach me. May through him, as elder brother, all become adopted children. He shall teach a novel doctrine. This my son shall, new to mankind, and to all the gods besides me, doctrine of renunciation, sacrifice of self for others, love toward me, and love the neighbor. Me first, but the neighbor after. Reciprocity the highest and most sacred social duty. He shall call me Father, Father, never, never God Almighty, great Jehovah, as they do who seek to flatter me with vain words, hypocrites, who do not love me. He shall tell the world who sent him. In my name he shall work wonders. Into wine shall transform water. Tell a woman, though a stranger, everything she ever thought of. Cast out devils from possessed men. Heal the sick, the lame, the palsied. Cause the blind to see, and feed the multitude that follows breadless. He shall speak and still the tempest, calm the sea and walk upon it, cleanse from leprosy the leper, and to life restore a dead man, though entombed and decomposing. Having done all this, his mission, still unfinished, he shall fulfill by his death, sublime and tragic, by both men and angels witnessed, at which heaven and earth shall shudder, first and only divine martyr. Like a common malefactor, he, the Son of God, shall perish, on a cross nailed and uplifted. He shall die with thieves, whose crimes are thick upon them for his death mates, acme of humiliation, emphasis of degradation. But as a divine exemplar, illustrating the new doctrine of self-sacrifice for others, in the agony of dying, all the mother in him feeling torture, keenest human anguish, hearing still the gibes and jeerings of his human prosecutors, the divinity within him shall cry out, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Ceramented, buried, guarded, lest his tomb be violated. 3 days after he shall rise, and show himself to many living. Seeking his disciples, they shall by his wounds identify him, beyond doubt or disputation, after which, with them around him, having given them instruction and commandment, he shall vanish in a cloud from their dull vision, and ascend to me in heaven, thence, according to his promise, to return with power and glory, a new kingdom to establish among men to last forever. Such my plan for man's redemption, if my people will accept it. Well and good, if not, the heathen, for whom I have cared so little, shall be told of all my goodness, of my greatness, justice, mercy, loving kindness, and forbearance, and invited to become my lawfully adopted subjects, coming under my protection, by forsaking their allegiance to all other gods and serving me with faithful, true devotion. Such the legend, centuries since, a Galilean coming out of Nazareth, an humble village in Jerusalem, was murdered, victim of religious frenzy, tried, condemned, and executed for denouncing orthodoxy as behind the times and teaching doctrines in advance of Moses, and for calling God his Father, and for working on the Sabbath, and for pricking pious bubbles of pretension on the part of self-inflated high church people. Whited sepulchres, he called them, full of dead men's bones, hypocrites, a dangerous experiment for any man at any time where religion is despotic, and for drawing many people after him and causing tumult, for pretending to be king of Jewry also, charge not proven. After this man's crucifixion, after he had been 3 days dead, it was claimed by his disciples that they found his tomb deserted, and that he, arisen living, had appeared to them and taught them his true mission, that he then was caught up in a cloud and vanished, that he might be soon expected to return with power and glory, as he promised them to do so, that he was the true Messiah, long expected by the Hebrews, as foretold by many prophets, that his people did not know him, and refused to recognize him, that he had instructed them to preach his gospel to all nations, as Jerusalem beginning, offering them the benefit of his blood and shed for man's salvation. It has also been asserted, and made part of Christian dogma, that this humble Galilean was divine, was God incarnate, Son of, yet one with, the Father, sitting on the throne of heaven, that, although still daily looked for to appear on earth in person, he, before he left, commissioned one called Peter to look after his affairs on earth while absent, that through him and his successors a long line of holy fathers, Roman pontiffs, he established, and has ruled on earth his kingdom. Further it is claimed that all who've heard this story, and who hearing have believed and been baptized too, after death shall live again, and dwell in realms of bliss forever, but that all who've heard and doubted, or have failed to be baptized, should suffer everlasting torment. After centuries of preaching, teaching dogmas thus fantastic, still but few, compared with all who've heard the story, have believed it. Still but few of all the many who profess to comprehend the mystery of incarnation think of Jesus as of God, or yet of God as ever flesh born. Others sneer at the pretense of popes and priests, both big and little, that they hold divine commission to dictate beliefs religious, or to bind or loose the souls of others here or elsewhere, or that they are gifted with more knowledge of God's person or his purpose than are other men of learning, or that they by prayers can move him to reverse or change intentions. Multitudes, great populations, worship other gods and follow other great religious leaders, prophets, sons of God, redeemers, in their own face strong, unchanging, scorning the presence of Christians, that their faith alone is holy. But if true or false the story, all the peoples so-called Christian have outgrown their pagan neighbors, have progressed beyond all others in prosperity and morals, in that knowledge which is power, too, have been growing ever better, in both principles and practice, and though still both superstitious and intolerant as churchmen, Christian men and women singly rise above the hard fixed dogmas of an age of mental darkness, and display a nobler spirit, broader, sweeter, and more generous, more forgiving, loving, trusting, dignifying, and exalting, than distinguish other peoples. Better, too, than the rude spirit of denial when uncultured, manifested by such men as see in faith no shade of virtue, in religion no response to nature's most profound suggestions, men who delve the dirt of knowledge, blind to starry facts above them, worshipping themselves insanely. Science sees the truth more clearly. What it thinks of inspiration, or of miracles, no matter, though it leave the supernatural out of every estimation. Human history confronts it with stern facts, and it discovers values in all faiths and virtue, in all practical religions, sees and comprehends the fact that this most complex Christian ethic of renunciation, sense of otherness as well as selflessness, finding ample illustration in the life and death of Jesus, as set forth in Christian Gospels, taking root, has grown and blossomed in broad fields of human culture, giving color and perfume to all that's called civilization. End of chapter 13.